Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Green 19 podcast. I'm Dominique Yates. I'm joined by Ryan Wood and Tom Silverstein. We're back from Chicago after a crazy game at Soldier Field, and I kind of talked about this last night. Another interesting chapter added to this storied rivalry. The Bears winning on a walk-off touchdown to upset the Packers after the Packers had a 10-point lead late in that game, and now we can just kind of run through it and kind of get some observations. And now that I guess we've all had a few hours to, process what we saw from the game, I can just kind of once again get some thoughts on just, I guess, what happened in those late game moments where the Packers could not make those plays. And Spoon, I'll let you go ahead and kick us off. Just, what did you kind of see and just kind of your thoughts from it?
Well, first, to address what you're saying about the rivalry, this is the first time the rivalries really resulted in two pretty interesting games, two pretty close games. It's been a long time since it's been like that, and it was worth the price of admission. Regardless, it was just it had a lot of storylines to it. Now, for the Packers, it's just a huge blown opportunity. I don't know how you bounce back from that when you did just about 95% of everything right, and the 5% just is a hole in your hull. It's just like it just sunk you. It's going to be tough for them to come back from that. It's not impossible. There's still a path for them to get to the playoffs. I think they just really need to beat Baltimore or Minnesota, and they have a pretty good chance. Minnesota lost. I think J.J. McCarthy got hurt today, and, they're down to their third string guy. So, there's a lot of things there for the Packers, but, man, that could have been a real launching point for them if they had won that game. And now they're just kind of limping, I think.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Ryan, we kind of talked about that on the drive heading back to Green Bay. Not necessarily surprised about the outcome of the game, but just kind of how it played out was very interesting. Ryan, just, what were your thoughts?
I think there's three prongs here. There's the rivalry, there's the stakes, and then there's the future. I'll start with where Spoon kind of finished off. For me, I question how much of a launching point that would have been. It would have been a big win for the stakes and the rivalry. Okay, I'm not disputing that. Where my mind was with 2 minutes ago when they're lining up for an onside kick and I thought they were going to win was big win. They played. I picked the Bears to win that game going in. I did not pick the Bears to win like that. I did not think the Packers were going to go to Chicago and control the game the way that they did. That was impressive, but there was still easily enough concern about the things we came in concerned about to really wonder if this was still going to make a playoff run type team. I didn't see that from the Packers. The pass rush is still, even if they'd won, it's still pretty dormant. I don't know when you go up in the postseason against the Seattles, the LAs of the NFC, how you're going to generate pass rush there. The offense. This is not the first time all season that we've seen them be really bad in the red zone. This is now a repetitive thing. So in a vacuum, 0 for 5 in the red zone, that would have been something that in a vacuum, okay, it's 1 week, but it's not 1 week. This has happened. They've had those type of games. They've had games where they've moved the ball and haven't finished drives. They lost to the Carolina Panthers because of that. So that just, to me, whether it's Malik Willis or Jordan Love, kind of feels like that might be who they are. They're going to have that flaw. So there was enough flaws there that I don't know how much of a launching point that would have been. But when it comes to the rivalry and it comes to the stakes, we'll start with the stakes. You're looking at being the number 2 seed and getting home playoff games. Season ended today, it'd be Packers Bears in the wild card. You'd much rather have that game at Lambeau Field than going down there to Soldier Field. That's significant, being able to pocket a playoff win, maybe. And then the rivalry, that's where this was a much bigger moment for the Bears than it was the Packers. I was thinking going into the game, it's the biggest Bears game in what, 5 years since they had their last playoff game, which was a loss, I believe, to the Saints in 2020. It's the biggest Packers game since Thanksgiving, right? So like this is a really, really big moment for the Chicago Bears in terms of this rivalry. And if you're the Packers, you absolutely don't enjoy being on this side of that. It's going to be a rivalry, I think, that's going to stick over the next few seasons too. I mean, this was a treat this year, and we're going to see more of it. But in those ways, it mattered. I question. My mind on this team did not change whether they won or lost. I don't think that they're a team that can make a Super Bowl push. I didn't see that in a win or loss.
Now, when we do look at the offense, and we can kind of just run through some of the whole things, I guess you can say it starts obviously with Jordan Love taking that hit and exiting the game. Then Malik comes in. So Spoon, just you could say from top to bottom, at least in terms of the offensive execution, what did you kind of see? But then also just that inability to close out the drives with touchdowns.
Yeah, I think a lot comes down. I think the tone was set a little bit with the first drive, and they get down there and it's 4th and 1, and you could just take the points. And I'm actually okay with him going for it there. In the end, it showed that if they had taken the points, it would have made a huge difference. But I didn't like the play. Like, I didn't like that there weren't a lot of options for Love. It looked like it was all Watson. You're throwing to an injured guy, and you're hoping that he's the same guy who can beat him, beat somebody on an out route. And it's not there. And I don't know. I haven't looked real closely at it, but I don't want to call anybody else really being open. And to me, that was just not a great play. And so you call a timeout there, and you should have a play that works. And if you don't, then kick the field goal. And I thought that kind of set the tone. The thing about this game is that it came down to individuals, and it starts. Emmanuel Wilson drops that pass that if he catches it, it might be a touchdown, and they score. Maybe they get a first down there. The dropped snap, the miss. Romeo Doubs not getting the onside kick, Xavier McKinney dropping in another interception, not getting the proper blocks on the onside kick. You got McKinney and Bullard there, and McKinney gets bowled over by a defensive lineman, and then there's a free guy running towards Romeo Doubs. And just so many individual things that were kind of alarming. And, the reason I think that the Packers, to do anything in the playoffs, they need every break they can get. And they weren't making their own breaks. They were their own worst enemy. And give the Bears credit. I mean, Caleb Williams made some unbelievable throws as usual, and was patient and threw the ball away when he had to. But offensively, it's hard to argue with what Malik Willis did. It's not really sustainable over a season, but it is. You see that change of pace is really something that catches teams, and you have to wonder if that's worth doing more of during the season when Jordan Love's healthy.
Yeah, it's so ironic that you say that, Spoon, because I think about, even like you said, that first drive. The Bears special teams gifted the Packers free yards. You know what I mean? There were a lot of penalties in that game where it's like, okay, some easy field for the Packers. What do you do with it? You're not coming up with touchdowns. You're not executing when you needed to. So, yeah, I really thought so much about that. Ryan, you mentioned the red zone offense. Just, what else did you kind of see from the league, from just the execution and everything as a whole?
Yeah, conversely, Spoon, I think what had to be so aggravating about losing that game, and one of the reasons why, even if they'd won, I wouldn't have walked away from it overly impressed with the Packers long term, is because of how terrible the Bears played up until the 2-minute warning. I mean, we're talking 4 15-yard penalties, which is those are killers. Those are the penalties that end drives and get you off the field. You want to talk about the 4th and 1. Okay, Matt LaFleur's initial 4th and 1 play might not have been good. I think a long-term concern for the Bears with Ben Johnson is back when he was the offensive coordinator, play caller of the Lions offense, they were known for going for a lot of 4th downs, but that was really Dan Campbell's thing. Like, that's his brand. What the other thing the Lions offense was known for was their gadgetry, right? And Ben Johnson might have been the play caller, but he wasn't the head coach. There was a check in place to tell him, hey, this 4th and 1 might not be the right time for a direct snap to the running back here. Maybe you just go get a yard. That's what the Lions did. That was their offense. They were physical. 2 times now in 3 weeks, we've seen the Ben Johnson Bears get way too cute on 4th and 1. Their initial 4th and 1, you're just asking for problems to happen there. That set a tone. That was a big part in helping the Pack, because if they punch that in, they're down 7-0 early. They're playing catch up all of a sudden, but they didn't, right? So that set a tone for a beneficial tone for the Packers. Caleb Williams, before he made a lot of those great throws, he had as egregious of an intentional grounding penalty I've ever seen. He wasn't even pressured. I don't know what possessed Caleb Williams to chuck the football out of bounds. There was no pressure on the play, but you had to call the intentional grounding. This was, in a lot of ways, gift wrapped to you. The Bears helped you out a lot, and then you couldn't secure an onside kick. I'm with you on the blocking on that play, Spoon. I thought Xavier McKinney kind of blocked it like it was a given. Kind of like he expected the most automatic play in football to be an automatic play. When it's not actually automatic, you do have to execute it. What also didn't help was that Cairo Santos, he hit a terrific ball. I mean, that was a difficult ball to judge. And Romeo Doubs took steps backward when he should have attacked the football. That didn't help either. I do question Romeo Doubs in the same game had a fair catch when he had 15 yards of space. All right. So the Packers have him on the hand seam. They have him as the punt returner because they believe that he has the best hands on the team. But he's also a guy that gets a little squeamish as a punt returner when he's got 15 yards of space. Is that the right guy to be in position when you have a wall of Bears coming at you with the game on the line? I don't know. Now, the problem for the Packers, they don't have anyone else. They don't have another option to go to as a punt returner. He might have the best hands on the team because they don't have another veteran that they feel like they can put in there. And Christian Watson, you're not putting him in that position. If he gets injured like Romeo Doubs does, that really kills your offense. He's injured already. So there were a lot of miscues that the Bears handed you over, and you weren't able to benefit from that in the end because you couldn't execute yourself on the simplest plays. In a lot of ways, the Packers out-Bearsed the Bears, and that was the problem.
Yeah. I do want to bring up, I just want to jump into special teams. I still want to talk offense and some defense more, but I mean, special teams has been brought up a lot. I'm curious. I want to get your guys' kind of feel on this because, yes, maybe it gets magnified at the end, but yeah, you have blocked kicks in Cleveland. You have blocked extra points in Dallas, plus, 46-yard returns that gave the Dallas offense a chance to make something happen. You have last night in Chicago. So you have so many moments where if the special teams don't hurt you, you could be looking at maybe a 12-2 record right now. And it's not just on one position. Matt LaFleur talked about that. The offense didn't do all it needed to do. The defense had some issues. I'm curious for you guys, do you think that, I guess, some of the talk about the issues with special teams, do you think it's a genuine problem, or is just because it's just kind of magnified because of, it's happened more than once? I guess, what are your kind of feelings with special teams?
Well, it's a problem. It's a big problem. And part of your special teams coach's job is to put players in the right positions. And, I don't know if Dobbs was the right guy to be there or not. But there's one other aspect to it is that, the Bears had those those personal foul penalties or the sort of those bad 15-yard penalties. But those things had a purpose because they came out like their hair was on fire. And, that first penalty when he grabs, Bo Melton around the neck and jumps on the pile. I mean, they were the more physical team throughout. And only when the Packers got the running game going did I think they showed a little bit of physicalness. But it showed on the onside kick. They were all over that thing. I mean, they just beat the Packers to the ball. And so, even if he drops that, there's a chance to recover it. But they were all over it. I mean, they played like maniacs, and they pushed the envelope. The Austin Booker hits on Jordan Love, both of them. But he was setting a tone, and I thought the Bears did a really good job of being the more physical team. I think without their top receivers, they were kind of hurting on offense. I don't think they're the same team. They ran the ball a little well, but I thought the Packers did a good job of controlling them. The special teams, to me, they did, they were good. They didn't commit any penalties for once, but I think they got knocked around. And I think when that onside kick came, there was one team that was ready to jump on the ball, and there was another team that was thinking, boy, I hope we can get this ball, and I hope it bounces our way. And another team saying, that's our ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the penalties, playing like maniacs, that can be a good and bad thing. It can be a good or bad thing. I thought it was more bad. I thought they were out of control. It should have gotten them beat. It went a long way in not controlling the first 58 minutes of that game, if not for the Packers going 0 for 5 in the red zone, securing an onside kick. It would have gotten them beat. So part
of it is playing defense like that to keep them out of the red zone. I mean, they were on fire. They played hard.
Yeah, and I get that, but they were reckless too. And I mean, I actually thought that they were not the more physical team, the Packers, but they were the more controlled team. And that in a showdown like that goes a long way. I think that was a big part of the reason why they were in position to win, and they did control almost the entire game, was because they were not reckless. Some of those penalties the Bears had, they bordered on reckless. So that's how I saw that. The special teams, Matt LaFleur, there's 3 killer plays this season. The way he sees it is those are 3 plays that cast a dark cloud on what is good. Now, by all means, you can quibble with how Matt LaFleur see. And I asked him, does the majority of good in your mind outweigh the dark cloud, the 3 bad plays? And he said that, yes, it does. I don't know that I see it the same way. To me, that sounded like a head coach that is not all that interested in making a special teams coordinator change this offseason, when at the end of the day, you are 3 plays from viably being 12-2. And those special teams, we talk about it all the time. Rule number 1 for special teams, it's like the Hippocratic Oath. Do no wrong. They've done a lot of wrong. When you are 3 special teams plays from potentially being 12-2 over the course of the season, that is a magnitude of wrong. That's a lot of wrong. Too much.
That's the thing, though. It's not just 3 special teams plays. It's bad special teams plays all through the season. It's pinning yourself back inside your own 10-yard line because you held on a kickoff. The
Emmanuel Wilson kickoff that he didn't need to touch and then does in Denver, right. And then all of a sudden, those type of things.
Exactly. Yeah. It's bad decisions. It's the constant penalties of causing you to lose field position are killers. And, there's the 3 that really, help decide games. But then there's about a dozen other plays, maybe more, that you can point to that are just not good football.
Yeah, if you want to tell me that the coverage units have been good, I'm there. Okay, they have been. You want to tell me, hey, they've righted their kicking situation as the season went on. Oh, okay, yeah, they did. there's still way too much wrong with this special teams. This special teams is still, as a whole, nowhere near good enough if you want to be where your roster positions you to be, which is a Super Bowl or bust type team. Point blank period, you need better special teams than this. Just has to be.
Yeah, it's almost ironic because that opening kickoff on special teams, there was a flag.
Yep.
And I think I was looking at you, Spoon. I'm like, man, what they do already?
Yeah.
Like, not done. I didn't even know what the play was. No situation.
Assumed it was on the Packers. Right?
Assumed it was Packers. I'm like, that's not good, right? It's just, you just like, oh yeah, what the Packers do now on special teams, who had a late hit or who had a holding call or something like that. So yeah, that was why I wanted to get those thoughts about, just kind of the pulse right now on special teams. And it was interesting to hear, Matt LaFleur. I mean, you got to defend your guys. I get that, but also, it's an issue.
The other thing, the coverage has been really good. Their kickoff coverage has been excellent. Their punt coverage has been pretty good. But, they maybe once came close to blocking a punt. They haven't blocked a field goal or an extra point.
They're non-existent in the return game.
Yeah.
They're non-factor there.
Very little return game. And they've put, all their chips on Savion Williams, and it hasn't worked. And all those things add up, and you're lucky that you have a punter that you have, and then you're lucky you have the kicker that you have, though, we'll go back and, question whether they handled his injury correctly, or, that's going to be another issue that is borderline too. So it's just not been a good year.
With the return game, it's interesting. I get that this is the franchise of Desmond Howard, okay? But in reality, the return game doesn't really swing the needle on winning a Super Bowl. Quarterback, pass rush, those type of things. Who your returner is, not really. But it's still a position on the field, and you should fill every position on the field. They have not filled the position of returner. It is unfilled. That's not a complete team. It's not going to swing ultimately the Super Bowl needle, but you don't want to leave positions unfilled.
No, you're right. I mean, again, like you said, on punt team, Romeo Dobbs, he had 15 yards of grass in front of him.
Yeah,
give you some yards. Like help your offense out to work with and not playing so far back. Don't have penalties. Don't give them something more. It can't just be, okay, we didn't give up a long run on a return and Brandon McManus made his kicks. There has to be just a little bit more of that, just playing clean football execution, making smart decisions. And yeah, I mean, we're going into week 17 and there's still those questions of, okay, who's going to return these punts? Who's going to get you some yards? Is there anything that's going to work? So again, yeah, it's something that really does stand out, and it's almost fascinating that we're at this point in the season and you just haven't seen really many positives outside of what they've done from the coverage unit.
What that matters the most is when you don't have a Micah Parsons or a Devontae Wyatt or an Evan Williams or a Zach Tom or a Tucker Kraft. That's when special teams matters the most. Because, okay, if they have all this superstar talent and they're healthy, it really mitigates special teams. I'm not going to say it's not important, but it's less important. But when you are banged up to this level, which is incredible, and I think a major overriding theme of where this season is right now, when that's the reality, special teams are even more important because you need all the help you can get. You got to do something to try to stem the bleeding. They don't have a special teams unit that can do that.
Yeah. So I want to jump back to offense very quickly, and mainly just because of offensive line, able to watch Jordan Morgan go back to tackle. And he filled in for Zach Tom without LaFleur, without looking at the film. He said he played well. I'll start with you, Spoon. Just, what did you make of the play of Morgan at tackle and just kind of the offensive line operations?
Yeah, I haven't, I can only give you my view from above and not from having watched every play. But my sense is that he was fine, that he was – I actually think it was a benefit to have him in the game ahead of Kennard when Malik Willis came in, because then it's a movement game. Everything is zone inside, outside, and Jordan Morgan, that's his game, is movement. It's not, trying to move guys. It's moving guys on the run. And I think that works well to his game. So I think he had a really decent game, and it worked out fine. They are so missing a complete tight end in just the worst way. And, it kind of showed Kennard gave up the sack that knocked Love out of the game. They just, man, that is just dogged them. And, I don't know how, Fitzpatrick can't always catch the ball. He can block once in a while, Musgrave can catch a ball, but he can't block. That just, the Tucker Kraft injury is just dogging them. And, but I think they found out, hey, guess what? Jordan Morgan can play tackle. Oh, what a revelation. Maybe you should have been letting him compete for left tackle at some point. But hey, what do I know?
Right. Hey, so what did you think of the Austin Booker hit on Jordan Love?
The hit, I think it's curious that the guy had two late hits on the quarterback. So whether he was trying to hurt, you can't judge intent, but it's obvious he was from the beginning, he wanted to put hits on Jordan Love. I mean, whether it was late or not, and everybody did. And, the Packers players kind of differed both ways on it. I talked to a bunch of them, and, Aaron Banks was really pissed. He thought it was a dirty play. You talk to defensive guys, and they're like, hey, that's football. Sometimes your head gets lowered and you run into it. Rasheed Walker didn't really think it was a cheap play. So it was borderline. What brings it into question is that it was his second roughing the passer. And the other question on that is, so you can be ejected for taunting, spitting on a guy, making contact with an official, but two, roughing the passer, late hit things, or a head-to-head, and you don't get ejected. It's just a weird aspect to, for player safety. It's worse to taunt a guy than it is to hit him in the head.
Yeah.
So I didn't think he should be ejected. I didn't think it was like he put his head down and he was going for it. I think Jordan Love lowered his head just as that hit was coming and made a reactive move, and that caused it to be, front to front. So no, I mean, I don't know that he should be ejected, but it was a bad hit.
The problem if you introduce the potential to be ejective is I think it's so subjective that you're just requiring or you're requesting a mess. I just don't see how that's feasible. Someone spits on a guy, someone does a taunting. That's pretty clear, right? But it's not a lot of subjective in that. It's
what about when a quarterback is sliding and you see one of those guys just take a head first shot?
Yeah.
To me, that's get out of, that's an ejection. I don't think that hit was a ejection worthy, but I think there are plays where guys are clearly using their helmets, where they're using their arms, to hit someone in the head, and you got to clean some of that up for the safety of the game. So anyway,
I didn't think it was a dirty play. I thought it was a dumb play. Now you can certainly argue that it worked out in the Bears' advantage. It knocked Jordan Love out of the play or out of the game, but that's football. Yeah, that's football 15 years ago. In the year 2025 of our Lord, every defensive player knows that when you are hitting anyone, but especially the quarterback, you do not approach with your head down. You do not approach leading your head. It is an obvious teaching point at this time. And so I get less concerned about, you try having a 300-pound man run at you and not duck your head and try to brace yourself. That's Jordan Love lowering his head. I don't put that on him at all. That makes him human. it was a dumb play, and it could have been a really costly play for the Bears too. I get that it knocked Jordan Love out, but in that situation, you had a positive play that you turned into a 15-yard penalty. That was a momentum-changing type thing for the Packers offense too, to continue a drive. I thought it was dumb. I thought, Austin Booker, if you're not doing that intentionally, my goodness, you should know better, because it's been years that is not how you teach it, and you do not approach with your head down. You will get absolutely penalized for that.
Yeah. Speaking of quarterbacks, do you think Malik Willis has done enough to deserve an opportunity to try to start for an NFL team?
We're going to be different on this. Spoon, I can feel it. We're going to disagree.
Spoon, you want to go first?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Ryan.
A shot at being a starting quarterback, yes.
Yes.
I don't know what he does with that shot, but he has the arm. He has the athletic ability. He apparently, I was not in the Malik Willis press conference after the game. He apparently mismanaged that fourth down, didn't communicate.
He did.
About the cadence change.
Yeah.
I put that more on, like, that's something to me. That's a big mistake, but that's something that playing more can't fix. Like, once you get immersed into that role, I do think he has the ability to better manage. Like, the best way to learn how to manage an offense is by managing an offense, and he doesn't do that with any regularity. The physical tools are something that there's a lot of bad quarterbacks in this league. There's a lot of bad quarterbacks in this league. He's got some physical tools that if I'm a head coach, I'm very intrigued by. And I don't know what he does with that shot. I'm not going to say right now he's definitely a starting caliber quarterback in this league. I don't know. First of all, I'm not a personnel guy. I don't know what makes a starting caliber quarterback in this league. Matt LaFleur believes absolutely he is, because he moves the offense and he puts them in position to win every time he goes in there. And those are two tangible things. I also know that Matt LaFleur is not going to say, no, he's not a starting quarterback in this league. I mean, of course he's going to say that. But those are two tangible reasons. I think he's deserving of a shot. And what he does with it, I don't know.
Spoon?
Yeah, I think he does deserve a shot.
Hey, we agreed. What?
But here's the problem. And, couple personal guys I've talked to about it aren't thrilled about him. And here's the issue is that, a quarterback who can run is great, but there's a reason you don't run college offenses in the NFL. And it's because those guys get hurt. They're going to get hurt at some point. And the other thing is that type of run game just isn't sustainable when a team can practice for it and has time and knows, you got the quarterback, you got the back, and everything has been practiced. Then it's a much more difficult offense to run. I think that Malik Willis has the ability to be a drop back passer. And I think he can do the things. I'm not saying he's Lamar Jackson, but I think he can offer some of the things that Lamar Jackson does, which is stand in the pocket, throw the ball, scramble when you have to. But Matt LaFleur has put in an offense that's very college, gimmicky kind of offense. And that isn't sustainable, in my opinion, over a whole year.
Right.
So, but I would like to see him get a shot. I would like to see someone, keep working with him in that offense. I actually think it wouldn't be a bad thing for him to stay in this offense and spend another, maybe one more year, and have Matt LaFleur not necessarily run all of that stuff with him, and give him a chance to run the offense like it should be run.
The hard part there is, while it's not sustainable full-time starting to run that type of scheme, boy, is it beneficial to the Packers when they put him on the field, and all of a sudden it's a college RPO offense with the guy that has the Jets to run it at a high level, and good luck playing against that when you didn't practice against it all week. Right?
And man, that has got to be part of your red zone offense. Okay, if your red zone offense isn't great,
it's a great point.
Throw something in there, give him a series. I know it's a shot to Jordan Love, and he's not going to like it. But you're a team that has to manufacture things because your stars are out, they're gone. And you have to figure out ways to use your other guys to their strengths. And I kind of think they kind of lost that. We talked about that when he played against the Giants. Like, get a package in there for him, and they never did it.
Jordan Love might not like it, but it's not an indictment on Jordan Love. It's more a byproduct of what the job of every head coach that decides personnel should be, which is if he's one of your best 11, figure out a way to maximize his value to your team. And I do believe that Malik Willis is one of their best 11 at this point, this current iteration of the Packers. And it's an offense that to your point, struggles in the red zone. The point on the ability with larger sample size to prepare for it, to better stop that run game, I think is interesting. Because on one hand, I totally agree. On the other hand, I have seen plenty of times now, including what was a 4th and 1 last night where he had the 13-yard carry, where the defense is in the right position. They have it teed up, and he has a different gear athletically, talent-wise, to just make you miss. He can outrun guys. If he was ever to be a full-time starter, you have to be smart with that, one, for the injuries, but two, because the more you do it, the more the defensive coordinators are too good in this league to let that keep happening without adjusting. But there are still, even with those adjustments, going to be moments when his talent is still going to make plays. He's able to do that because he has that gear and the arm to go with it, which keeps you off balance. The Tremaine Edmonds scramble.
Yep.
How much does Tremaine Edmonds respect his arm?
He's no more athletic than Lamar Jackson, and Lamar Jackson gets hurt a lot. He takes hits, and he's out. He's constantly out. Jalen Hurts had to stop doing that. He had to stop running because he gets hurt. What you do is you force Malik Willis to carry it. You take away that slam, that quick handoff to the running back, and you make Malik Willis run it, and you're ready for him, and you put hits on him. That's why I don't think it's sustainable, because I think the quarterback just takes too much hits. It's, the Jackson Dart thing where unless you're ready to get down every single time, those guys just get hit too much, So that would be my reasoning.
It comes down to the arm like it does for every quarterback. But, he's got a pretty good arm. He makes throws, strong throws, touch throws, accurate throws. He makes throws. I'd be curious. I don't know if it'd work or not, but I would be really curious to see him try.
The thing that stands out to me is no question he's come a long way. If you watched him when he played for the Titans, even last season against the Packers, compared to now, I thought about that 30-plus yard touchdown to Dobbs. He probably wasn't making that throw last year. So there's some things there to this game. I'm like, okay, you're seeing a little bit there. That's why he's so intriguing to me. Even in overtime, to throw to Jaden Reed. I mean, it was a good read. It was a good decision. Reed got some good yardage there. So every game, there seems to be those plays here or there. Even in New York, the touchdown throw to Watson. Like, there's a couple plays here and there. I'm like, okay, I think you're seeing something there. So that's why he's such an intriguing guy for me. So I'm wondering what it could look like if it's like, okay, it's your play. There's no just mental reps. There's no you have to stay after practice to get a feel for the game. Like, you're kind of the quarterback. Let's see what you do. So he's very interesting.
He's got a great arm, and he's got a really quick release.
Yeah.
He gets it out of there fast.
Yeah. So I do want to jump back really quickly, Ryan. Last thing on offense, we haven't even touched on defensively just yet. You talked to Jordan Morgan in the locker room. What were the takeaways from that conversation?
Well, first and foremost, he's very firm on his left end. Now, last night was a different scenario because he also said that he understands that during the course of the season, especially in the role that he is, which is not a full-time starter, that if there's an injury at right tackle, put your hand up and go play, right? And that's what he did. He said he knew at the beginning of the week, short week, he knew right away that he'd be playing, he'd be starting there at right tackle. Zach Tom wasn't playing. That wasn't a surprise. He practiced it all week, prepared for it, and I thought he played just fine at right tackle. But he's a left tackle. And at one point, I even asked I told him I could see your mind being in one of two places. On the one hand, you're a young guy in this league who wants to play, not playing probably as much as you like. Just put me in wherever. On the other hand, good Lord, just give me one position to focus on and learn. And he laughed. I mean, that he's in the second camp. Like he is very much ready to just take ownership of one position, which I believe will be left tackle next year. I think he's your 2026 starting left tackle.
He will be the starting left tackle.
Yes,
he will.
So
Walker's not getting re-signed.
No.
That's where his mind is. As far as playing right tackle, he did. This is the one good thing about maybe playing as much right guard as he has. He said it wasn't much of a transition for him because he's played so much right guard that he's gotten used to the right side. Mm-hmm. But long term, he is a left tackle. When the Packers put together their offseason plan for the blindside protector of Jordan Love, they should have no other thought but Jordan Morgan is the starting left tackle in 2026.
Well, start him there and then see, you always have to have competition. Maybe Belton is better suited there. I don't know, but at least let them compete. But Jordan Morgan's a left tackle.
You know what? This is just a guess, and I could absolutely in 2 years turn out to be completely wrong. Just putting that out there. But if you go back with Sean Ryan, his rookie year, he was a non-factor, right? I mean, he had that suspension for PEDs. He didn't play. He's a third-round pick as an offensive lineman. Absolute non-factor. Now, I think there's a very real chance he could be the starting center in 2026. I mean, he's played fine there. The run game's been better there. Sometimes, even for a high-drafted offensive lineman, a lot of times there are guys that are able to come in and play right away, but not always. And sometimes you need a couple years to be able to marinate before you're ready. That's the road that Sean Ryan has taken. I think he's been a positive addition at center. I want to call it now. I think that Jordan Morgan will end up being the same way. He's been mostly a non-factor in his first 2 seasons, which is not ideal for a first-round pick offensive lineman. But I do think that given the time to develop that he's had, if you just stick him at one position, which is the position left tackle that he is born to play, he has the athleticism for it, he has the tangibles, shorter arms, fine, but that's every time we've seen him on the edge, it's never been an issue. I think there's still a very real chance that he could turn into a positive offensive lineman for this team down the road.
Yeah. I mean, no question about it. And maybe there could be down the road a silver lining of like he wasn't a good interior lineman, but maybe it helped with some physicality. Maybe it just helped him compete and just get a feel for the speed of playing offensive line in the NFL. So only time will tell, but that's something that can definitely monitor. All right, defensively, I mean, for 58 minutes, they managed to do the job. Swift didn't kill him. Monangai didn't kill him. And overall, they were able to, at times, contain Caleb Williams. Spoon, just when you looked at the defense, I mean, you can kind of wrap it in a little ribbon from the pass rush to the back end with Hobbs and Javon Bullard. Just, overall, what did you kind of see defensively?
I thought they played their butts off. I thought they had a good game plan. I thought they executed the game plan. I thought they kept Caleb Williams in the pocket, and that's what you want to do. And as time wore on, they started to get more and more pressure on him. On the game-winning touchdown, Quay Walker was just getting his hands on him. I can't remember if it was the touchdown, the fourth down touchdown. Bretton Cox is inches away from him. If that's Micah Parsons, it's a sack.
Right.
But Brett Cox is pretty fast too. Yeah. Warren Brinson had a hit on him as he threw a 20-yard completion. I thought up front they did exactly the best that was possible. Rashawn Gary had a pretty solid game. Their weakness again is in the secondary. And I think that's a huge, huge issue that has to be addressed during the offseason. And you can't have guys blowing coverages on 4th and 4. just don't understand that. And I just don't, I wouldn't be confident with the guys that they have going into next year. They got to find some starting corners. I actually think Nate Hobbs can be a solid guy for them. I think he's probably got as much talent and football knowledge to be a starter, but whether he can be an outside guy, I don't know. But you know, they got to do better than Valentine. They got to try to do better than Nixon. And, you know, they got to make more plays. McKinney's got to raise his game. He can't keep dropping interceptions.
Yeah. Hey, Spoon, if you had to choose one, and they might only be in position to choose one, they don't have a first-round pick next spring, would you choose a plus defensive tackle or a plus corner?
I would pick a corner. I think they have enough defensive tackles. You know, I think Brinson's going to be a decent player. I think he's got some pass rush ability. And, you know, it's tough for rookies. They don't do much, but I think he's flashed enough. You soon get Wyatt back. Yeah, I would go for a corner.
I think even Jordan Riley stepped in and did some good things as well. So, yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
Brinson's a guy whose film I'm really looking forward to digging into as soon as the season ends. I think I'm with you, and I'm a late convert there. I mean, we're talking the last couple of weeks that I've really kind of, because as soon as they traded Kenny Clark away, I thought it was a shoo-in that your second-round pick, if it's a strong board of defensive tackle, you're finding somebody to pair with Devontae Wyatt. I still think it's a need there. It's a significant need there. But it might be a need that they can fill internally. I don't know that they have that same luxury at corner. What Keyshawn Nixon is what you want Carrington Valentine to be, which is a really solid number 2. And what he's not is a healthy, motivated, head on his shoulders Jair Alexander. Exactly. He's not a number 1. No. So I think that Keyshawn Nixon has value. It's just because of the being hamstrung, it's about having your players in the right roles. It's not the right role.
Yeah. I guess, you know, it probably wouldn't be able to work out this way for them because we talked about the draft picks and all that. But I think next year, if they're able to do it, like I said, Nixon is corner number 2, and he's your kick returner. Then you go get and you get a number 1 corner.
Yes.
I think punt. He is your return specialist. Yes. You're absolutely right there. Yeah, they do have an option. They just, you know, they can't put him there because he's number 1 corner.
Yes. So I think like if they were able to do that in a, you could say, perfect world, that's what they would need to do. So guys, we've been going at this for a while. Any final words or thoughts or something that I didn't ask before we wrap up the show and get ready for the rest of this week before Baltimore?
Well, to me, the bottom line was, you know, because they've lost so many of their good players, they needed every advantage possible to try to move through the playoffs. And that's why I thought losing this game was so big, because I think they had a chance at a home playoff game to start. Not only that, they wouldn't have to face the Rams or the Seahawks or the 49ers in the second round if they won necessarily. I mean, what I mean is they wouldn't have had to face the number 1 seed. Now, let's say they make the playoffs and they're the 7th seed, and if they manage to beat the Bears, then their gift is they get to go play the number 1 seed on their own family. That's why I think that game was so critical in losing it. You got to win the division. You got to get a home game on the first one, and then who knows what can happen after that. You know, let someone else pull the upset and you know, maybe you benefit from it. So now they're just bad. Their road is so tough regardless. Now, it isn't out of the realm of possibility that the Bears could lose at San Francisco and lose to Detroit.
Not at all.
It could happen. You know, the Packers can beat Baltimore. They can beat Minnesota. And next thing you know, they're the division champs.
Yeah.
But boy, if you'd have won that game, you're in total control. You know,
I was going to ask if you thought the NFC North was over.
I don't.
I don't either.
I want to see how Detroit does today. I haven't been. I've
They're
got
up
it on
10-3 with a minute and a half left in the first half.
But it kind of depends on how Detroit plays them in that final.
Yeah,
plays Detroit, and whether San Francisco's up for beating Chicago. It's not out of the realm of possibility. It really isn't.
I really don't think it is either. I think, Dominique and I were having a long discussion about this on the drive back from Chicago, mostly to keep myself awake behind the wheel. And I think where it's most damaging is it's not even that second round game that you alluded to going to the 1 seed, because if you're making a super run, you have to expect to do that anyway. Where it's most damaging is deeper in a potential run, where now you are looking at very likely, if you don't come back, you stay in 7th, going to LA and to Seattle, or to Seattle and to LA. Both of those games being on the road. I don't see them doing that. First of all, I don't think they're as good as the Rams or the Seahawks, but to go on the road and beat both, maybe you can beat one of them at home at Lambeau Field, and then you're down to an NFC Championship game in Seattle or LA, and you only have one of those road games. But that to me is the most killer. Segueing a little bit, it struck me. Matt LaFleur gave his day after presser at 3 p.m. Sunday, which was 20 minutes before exactly the 1 week point when they were kicking off in Denver. And my God, how much has changed in 1 week, where you have a chance in that game to not only beat the Broncos, but be looked at as maybe the team to beat in the NFL. You have a chance to go to Chicago, a half game up in the NFC North, win that game, really seize control. At that time, you still have Micah Parsons. You still have Jordan Love. They don't have either right now. Now, Jordan Love will be back this season, you suspect, but not Micah Parsons. This is, when you take a look at the wreckage of this past week, it is stunning. And I can't put any of that on Matt LaFleur. Even last night in Chicago, I thought Matt LaFleur and his staff coached a fine game. The special teams are way too bad. But I can't put Romeo Doubs failing to secure an onside kick on Ritz Bisaccia. Like, that's a player needing to make a play. Last night reminded me a lot of when the Carolina Panthers came to Lambeau Field, and they knew they had one way that, given their roster, they had to play to beat the Packers. And I think Matt LaFleur going for that first 4th down on the opening drive, I think his ball control offense and how he shortened the game showed you that he understood exactly how they needed to play to win in Chicago. He had a full, firm grasp of that concept. And for 58 minutes, they did awfully well, and then it all fell apart. And even the way it fell apart, I can't put on Matt LaFleur. So, this might become a weekly viewing of the Matt LaFleur hot seat, but I don't view it particularly warm right now. I get the sense that he's probably in a pretty good position. If for no other reason, Jordan Love has developed in his 3rd season as starter. From everything that we've seen from the Micah Parsons side, he's a firm believer in Matt LaFleur. If he has Parsons and Love, he's not going anywhere. He's going to be the coach next year. He's getting an extension. So that's kind of, I don't know if you feel differently, Spoon, but that's kind of the sense that I get right now.
A coach sort of sets the tone for the team. And, either you're, a confident, clutch bunch of guys, or you let balls bounce off you blow 4th downs. You don't, part of that is culture, and that's the coach's responsibility. And after 7 years, is that stuff starting to wear off, and you need a new voice? I don't know. I know that 2026 will be a Super Bowl expectation. Mm-hmm. It's going to be all or nothing, because they're going to be back. They're going to have all their guys. They may be able to add some people in free agency. Their offensive line will be set. They get Kraft. They get a healthy Watson for a whole year.
Reed?
Yeah. And so next year, the expectations are sky high. So do you want to make a change in that time? I don't know. That's a good question. It's something, boy, I'm glad I don't have to make that call. I do want to see how the rest of the season goes.
Yes.
Because, I hate to always harken back to years I covered, since the Stone Age, but when they won the Super Bowl in 2010, Aaron Rodgers suffered a concussion in Detroit, and they went to New England the next week, and they played really well, just like they did yesterday for the most part, but they lost. And that game served as a jumping point, as a board to get them into the playoffs and get onto their Super Bowl run as a 7 seed. I don't know if this game is that same thing because they didn't make those kind of errors in that New England game, but there's some comparable parts to it. You can lose a game and it can serve as a platform for the next game and on to the playoffs. I think that's the key. And LaFleur has to be the guy who gets them thinking that way, that, okay, that Bears game wasn't as bad as it looked, and there's some things that we can ride into the playoffs. So,
yeah, it's something that I'm going to be watching too the rest of this season. And in a lot of ways, in my opinion, this could be almost like heading into 2026, like an audition for a lot of these guys, because like right now, what 6 of your top 12 players are out and injured. So what's going to be in store for some of these guys that are playing now? And so I'm really curious how they'll handle it, and especially in some of the situations like you saw in Chicago where you needed some of your best players to step up and make plays. Like you mentioned, the McKinney dropping interceptions, the Dobbs on onside kicks. There's going to be some of those guys, your best players that are still on this roster that are healthy. They're going to have to try to find ways to step up. So, again, I'm going to be keeping a close eye on those guys for the rest of this season. And starts this weekend with the Baltimore Ravens at Lambeau Field. So, guys, I think that's enough for one podcast. And at least we were able to get a couple of hours of sleep before we got back to doing this and making it back from Chicago. So appreciate it as always. And thank each and every one of you for checking out the Green 19 podcast. For Ryan Wood, Tom Silverstein, I'm Dominique Yates.